Writing for fun and writing for profit. Can you have both? On Wednesday on Lisa Daly's live stream, we talked a little bit about burnout and how setting certain expectations on ourselves often leads writers to feeling burned out on writing, and how sad it is that this thing that we all chose to do because we have stories to tell and because it's fun just turns into a giant chore. This camera is... And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've already either experienced or heard people talk about their experience of writing for fun until they sign a contract, until they start doing it for money, and then it turns into work. I was definitely in that place a few years ago. I got my first book deal in 2011, and that book came out in 2014, and I have been writing books ever since, part-time until... Drama queen alert. Okay, y'all good? And writing books was like a part-time thing for me until probably about 2 years ago. I think it was 2018 where I really kind of headed down the full-time path. And honestly, it was because 2017 was the most depressing and worst career year that I had. The irony is that I had 3 books come out that year. By all appearances, everything was going great. The Pros of Cons, my co-authored YA novel, came out with Scholastic. My co-authored middle grade series, Secrets of Topsy, came out a month later, I think. One was in March and one was in April. And then I had another middle grade standalone come out that summer. Actually, there were 4. The 4th book in the Girls Who Code series, which I also wrote, came out that fall. So 4 books came out in 1 year, and everything looked great, but what was actually happening was throughout the year, things were really starting to deteriorate. I had this book I was so passionate about, and I had rewritten it for my very, very, very patient and helpful and amazing agent, and it just wasn't working. And I really thought I had it down this time, and she and I had a long phone call, and I realized it just still wasn't ready, and I was too exhausted on that particular project to continue trying to fix it. And then separately, everything else started to go wrong. I had an IP project that seemed like an absolute sure thing get rejected. A series that I had written and the publisher had expressed a commitment to picking up more books. Well, I wrote a proposal for the 3rd book, and they said the sales weren't good enough and they weren't going to continue with the series. I had an option clause in my contract for my middle grade standalones, and I was working with an editor there and we just really loved each other. We really connected. She was so supportive, but she was very honest, very transparent with me, which I appreciated. She told me that the sales team wasn't interested in even looking at another book for me because my sales weren't good enough. And we could make a whole other video, and maybe I will one day, on what that means, because to me, what it means nowadays is that if you aren't a mega bestseller, you're a failure. There's no mid-list anymore. That's just kind of how it is, and I know it's scary and it's depressing, but you know, that's kind of the reality of how publishing seems to be working, at least to me, to my eyes, and in my experience, and from what I'm witnessing with other people right now. So anyway, for years, I always tried to have lots of things going on all these different burners, because I know... Are you good? Because I know how publishing goes. It's not reliable, and that's fine, and you have to plan for that. And I knew if I wanted to keep writing books and move towards writing books full-time, or at least keep it at a part-time thing, I had to have a lot of things on all the burners. And I thought in 2017 that I had enough things out on submission, enough IP projects that I was auditioning for, enough things in the works that at least a couple of them would come through for me. But every single thing fell through. And at the end of that year, I emailed my agent and I was like, should I just stop? Should I just accept the fact that this isn't going to happen for me, and I had a nice run, but it's over? The short version of her response was no. And I did listen to her, and I did try to keep writing, but I started and stopped no fewer than 5 different projects. I would start outlining them and then fizzle out. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna pants this time. Maybe that'll free me from whatever this is. And it would fizzle out. I had no more confidence, and I couldn't stop focusing on what's going to sell. I have to make sure this is a sellable idea. I have to make sure some publisher is going to want it despite the fact that I am a failure in terms of sales. And that's a losing game, man. That is how you get burned out. I needed to write for profit for my career to pay my bills, because at that point that was what I was doing for a living, and not paying your bills is not an option, but I was going about it completely the wrong way. So that was when I started my freelance ghostwriting thing. That I set up a profile on Readsy. I started getting work. I started writing books for private clients, and it was paying my bills, and I put my novels aside and just focused on that. And what ended up happening was that the collaboration, working with people who were so excited to finally have someone help them bring this book they had in their minds to life, the excitement of that, it rubbed off on me. And I did that in 2018. That was almost all I did. It was just ghostwriting for others. And it got me back to the place where I finally started to feel excited about working on my own books. And I tried to in 2019, and it still wasn't happening. I spent last summer working on this historical fantasy that I thoroughly outlined. I mean, it's planned out. And I think I got to like 35,000 words, and I just fizzled. It happened again. I couldn't keep going on it because I kept focusing on, is it sellable? If I go on submission with this, is it going to sell? And I just realized I need to stop playing that game. I need to stop worrying about whether my own books will sell, because frankly, right now, I don't think they will. I don't think I could go on submission with anything right now that would sell, and I don't think it would matter how great the concept was. That's just kind of like where things are, both with the state of publishing and the state of me. So now we're in 2020, and I have still been really enjoying the ghostwriting and really enjoying the IP projects. And it's that same excitement that comes from collaborating with somebody and helping them see their book come to life and to help them like fulfill that vision has really made me want to get back to those books of my own that really excited me. And to hell with whether or not it's publishable. I want that fulfillment. I want to circle back around to just writing a story because it's burning a hole in my head and I have to get it out. And if I'm the only person who ever reads it, then that's how it's going to be. So a few weeks ago when Kate Kavanaugh announced the Milwordy challenge, and I immediately signed up, and then kind of maybe had a little bit of moment of panic after I committed to it and realized how many words a million words actually is. I realized, no, you know what? This is my chance. I will include all of the books I ghostwrite, all of the stuff that I'm contracted to do. Obviously, that's going to count towards that million words. And then whatever's left, whatever other stuff I have to write to fill up that million, that's gonna be my passion stuff. That's gonna be the stuff I'm most excited about. And I already know what project it's gonna be, and I wanna tell you guys just a little bit about it today. If you've watched any of my writing workshop videos, then you might have noticed this chalkboard in the background with these postcards and pictures. Some of them are pictures that I took myself on vacations in the past, but a lot of them are actually postcards from Coney Island, specifically old Coney Island, like the days of Dreamland and the old original Luna Park. I ordered these off Etsy, and actually a lot of them have old letters written on the back. I don't know if you can see this, but this letter is actually postmarked from 1933. It is not going to focus. This is a really good one. It's postmarked 1907. And I don't know if you can read that, but it says, "No doubt you remember the boy who always started the 10-minute roughhouse." I've got like a dozen of these postcards. The rest of them are all up over my desk along with this book. Coney Island Lost and Found. This is one of those projects that has had so many different iterations over the years. I have written so many different versions of it. I've changed the plot, I've changed the characters, and I just can't seem to let it go. And I also just can't seem to get it right. I reread that version the final version of it that I had written back in 2017, the one that I thought like, oh, I did it, I finally got it right. And I reread it and I had two thoughts. One was that I loved it. I loved it so much. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. And the other thought was, my agent was totally right. No, this is not sellable. And I don't just mean like it doesn't conform to something that publishers would want it to be. I mean like no reader would enjoy it the way I enjoy it, because so much of the heart of the story is buried under complicated plot stuff. I'll just tell you guys right now that it's a fantasy novel that involves time travel. And I plotted the hell out of that thing. I am still to this day positive that I accomplished the feat of writing a book with a time travel plot that doesn't have holes. I swear it doesn't have holes. I worked so hard on that plot, but it's so too timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, and that complications is burying all the stuff that readers actually care about, the characters, right? Anyway, but the book was set on Coney Island, and because it involves time travel, it spans generations, starting back in like, I think the first chapter opens in 1919, and then it goes through several generations, and there are scenes a few decades into our future, like 2030, around there. I just love the setting of all the wild theme parks they had back then, and they are truly wild. It was just a weird, magical little piece of New York back then, and I was just obsessed with it. I have read this book cover to cover, I mean, at least 3 times, but then I have come back to it to take notes. I couldn't tell you how many times. This is a series in my head. This could even be multiple series in my head. That historical fantasy that I mentioned earlier that I got 35,000 words on last year before it fizzled out, that was kind of set in this world, just with different characters, because both I loved the idea, but also because I was still stuck on trying to make it a sellable thing, that I thought maybe this is a better way in. Maybe I can get this published first, and then I can go back to that, whatever. Too focused on getting published and not enough focused on just having fun, because this is something I'm passionate about, and that's all I want it to be for right now. Anyway, I want a 0 draft of this thing. In fact, I'm kind of considering getting one of those Alpha Smart electric typewriter, whatever they are, keyboard things. Months ago, I saw a review that the Story Detective did over on his channel, and I just really love the idea of not being able to go back and look at what I've written, because that, more than anything else, is what slows me down when I'm drafting. And I kind of want to try a little experiment where I write a full draft of a book on the Alpha Smart and don't read a word of it until I plug it all into my laptop and see how it turned out. I really think I want to try doing that, and I think it could be super fun, and I think it's going to be my very first NaNoWriMo project. I have never done NaNoWriMo. I have definitely written 50,000 words in a month, so I'm not, and if I'm going to do this Milwordy thing, then obviously I'm going to have to get at least that a month. I think I'm going to have to get a lot more than that every month, but I'm excited about like the community of NaNoWriMo. I'm excited about trying to vlog about the NaNoWriMo experience for the first time. I think that this Coney Island thing, let's just go ahead and call it, I do have a title for it, but for right now, let's call it The Thing from Coney Island. And I just want to see if I can 0 draft it and go from there and see what happens. Now, the other thing is, speaking of Milwordy, I really need to figure out what 1,000,000 words a year is going to look like for me. And the way I want to do that is I want to figure out what I've written, how many words I've written in the last year, like from last September 1st through this September 1st, which is coming up real soon. What have I written? So then I can have like a gauge for understanding how much more I'm going to have to increase my output in order to get to 1,000,000 between this September 1st and next September 1st. So let's go do some math. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is go back through the last year and try to total up all of the word counts of all of the books that I've written. I'm going to include outlines, I'm gonna include first drafts, and I'm gonna include rewriting, but not revising. Okay, here we go. So I listed all of the words written between September 2019 and 2020. I've got this fantasy project. I included the series Bible I wrote. This was a ghostwriting thing. One of my books, ghostwriting, my book, collaboration, ghostwriting, and the video game, which is gonna add up. Now I'm gonna go through and add all of these up and see what the total is. I've made a terrible mistake. Okay, so what I've learned is that I wrote a little over 250,000 words of fiction in the last year, and not knocking that. I'm pretty proud of that, but that is about a quarter of a million. Okay, yeah, so still gonna do the Milwordy challenge, feeling a little less confident that I could actually possibly win it, but I will say this, through most of last year, my writing sessions were like 2,000 words a day at best. And in the last month, I have really gotten the 5,000 word minimum thing down. Like I can do that now. And I'm confident that that's gonna keep going. So at least there's that. 200 days of 5,000 words a day. I'll just keep telling myself that, yeah. So I want you guys to tell me, what do you do to keep things fun with writing? How do you keep from, getting burned out on something you love? And if you do write for money in any way, I mean, whether it's books or what, am I boring you? Okay. Whether it's books or blog posts or you're a travel writer or whatever else you do, let me know if writing for profit turns it into work or if you still manage to have fun. And if you got any tips or tricks, I would really, really love to hear them. 1 million words. 1 million words starting September 1st. Okay, I'm gonna do this. That's it for this video. I hope you guys have a great week and I will see you Monday with another video. Bye.